Hello, we're talking of Daily Blunders. Welcome back to Bonn. I'm just chatting away here with Hunter Cutting from Climate Action Network. I guess we'll start off, Hunter, with you can tell us a little bit about what you've been doing here in Bonn for the last week or so.
Not sleeping. I've been working with folks, talking and working with journalists, actually. A lot of the people that are in the trenches trying to figure out how to address emissions reductions and how to raise the money to help with adaptations. Oftentimes they have to have conversations with reporters, and so that's what I help people do, is set up those conversations.
And you've been following these talks for quite a while now.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the process here in Bonn? Is it something that's is it going well? Are you optimistic or?
I don't think you could say it's going well, and I don't think you could be optimistic. I do think you can be hopeful, because there have been small signs that things are now heading in the right direction. They're awfully small, though, and there's still a big gap between where we need to be and where we are. So it's kind of a two sides of the coin kind of thing. On the one hand, things are far from where they need to be. I mean, miles and miles away. But on the other hand, and we're moving awfully slowly, but on the other hand, we are moving in the right direction. So, I think you got to take from that what you will. I think the question is, we're not going to get there in one, in one big meeting. I think people had hoped that, like Copenhagen, we'll just take care of it all in one big meeting. That's just not going to happen. So the question is, can we do it in pieces? Can we make a little progress here in Bonn? In a really exciting announcement actually came out here in Bonn, there's going to be a meeting in Beijing in early October, and so can another chunk of progress be made there? And then could that be wrapped up in some sort of even bigger agreement in Cancun? And the idea, I think, or the hope is that maybe that could get some trust and goodwill going, because people sort of, there's been some folks feel betrayed, quite frankly. They don't feel countries have come through on what they said they would do. And so maybe if we start off by lowering the bar a little bit and then raise it, and raise it, the thing is we have to raise that bar fast.
Yeah.
So.
And I guess when we're in the midst of these UN processes and sitting here in the Maritime Hotel or in the Bella Center in Copenhagen, it's easy to kind of forget about the impacts of climate change and the realities on the ground. But I know that you've set up as a personal project a website to try and kind of explore these impacts and try and bring them out.
Yeah, it's surreal here. I mean, it is just bizarre. All of these people in suits, walking around.
Or not in suits.
And not in suits. Like it's business as usual in this sort of kind of plush hotel center. The disconnect here is just staggering. But I do think the same disconnect actually plays out all across the world. That all the time we're talking about climate change as if it's something that's going to happen in the future, 100 years from now. And when actually it's already happening all the time. It just is never acknowledged that way. It's never recognized that way. And I think actually we have a beautiful example of how dramatically and how fast things can change when you have a poster child, when you have an example of the problem that's really dramatic. And we have that in the Gulf right now, right? People for years, decades now, have been talking about our problem with our fossil fuel addiction, the problem with drilling, the problem with giving hundreds of billions of dollars in subsidies to fossil fuel companies, the need to move over to clean energy. But that conversation wasn't going very far, very fast. But all of a sudden, a dramatic example of the problem, and it changed the whole conversation. And so I think similarly, that maybe is what's missing from the conversation about climate change, that we talk about it as this problem that's happening way off in the future, when it's happening right now, and actually in quite disturbing ways. I thought one of the most bitterly ironic moments in the whole meetings here in Bonn happened at the very beginning of the meetings, when at the same time negotiators were starting their very slow, painstaking discussions here, there was a heat wave that broke all kinds of records in Pakistan and India, killing hundreds of people. And that's sort of one of the signature hallmarks of climate change, one of the fingerprints of climate change, not just when it's hot or extremely hot, but when a record is broken, an all-time record is broken, because that's what climate change does. You're still going to have your cool days and your warm days, but increasingly you're going to have more and more hot days and fewer cool days. You're going to have higher highs and higher lows as well. So that's what we saw in India and Pakistan. New record highs, shattering all the records, and hundreds of people succumbed. And this is in a country where people are very well adapted to living with the heat. And the fact that even there, people weren't able to cope with the heat is really a chilling reminder that there are limits to adaptation. Climate change is going to exact a terrible toll. So that was sort of some of the things we've been struggling with, is how can we surface these things? How can we get them more in the public conversation?